Hey guys, welcome to AITA Wednesdays, where you get to decide who's the arsehole, or just sit back and enjoy the tea. Our first story comes from Visual Job 7613. Am I the arsehole for occasionally glancing at my neighbour's windows when she didn't put up any curtains? I, a 38 male, live in a terrace house converted into 4 flats. The bottom flat is mine. It's the largest and it's the only one that has access to the garden. If you sit at the back of my garden, you can see inside the first floor flat through their windows. My first floor neighbour is Natalia, female 33. I'll admit it, she's gorgeous, and on top of that, she's intelligent. She's a translator, and I can hear her speaking on the phone. I could listen to her switch between 3 languages all day. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to her. I've never had the courage to ask her out though, but that's not the reason why I occasionally glance at her windows. When you sit in my garden, you can see directly into her flat. She has curtains on the windows on the other side of the building, looking out into the street, but I guess she forgot to put them on this side of the building, into the garden. Anyway, I'm a smoker, so whenever I sit down, I entertain myself by looking up. I can see whatever she's doing, and I find it fascinating. I can see who she is as a person, and admittedly, she's fascinating and very different to all the other women I know. I mean, the fact that she doesn't watch Love Island was a great start. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a creepy peeping Tom. She's not changing in front of the windows or anything. But I have seen her in her PJs, which kind of makes her more human to me. I kind of thought she was like a bit frigid and robotic at first. And now I'm getting more courage to ask her out. Honestly, I don't think you can just go up to a beautiful and smart woman. And seeing all those little glimpses of her private life makes it easier. Anyway, I digress. I had some mates over the other day, and we were sitting in the garden smoking. It was 3 guys, a female friend, and me. Natalia came back home and was doing some stuff, and they saw me looking up at her windows. My mates joked around, but weren't really against it. Just made fun of me. Banter, really. My female friend told me it was creepy that I put those chairs there on purpose, and I could easily move them to not stare into her windows. I told her that she's just jealous no one wants to look into her windows, and she told me I was a creep, and went back inside telling all her female friends. It was a birthday party, so I had lots of friends over. When I got back, my mates were taking the piss, but some females there were a bit funny and sided with her. I told her to leave and not come back, because I'm not a creep and it's a shitty thing for her to say that I am. She called me an arsehole, took her things and left, but she made a Facebook post about me, calling me all sorts of things, making sure everyone I know hears about this. If it's not creepy, then why is he so worried about everyone finding out? Now I'm confused. My mates agree with me, but some people under her posts agree with her. Am I the arsehole here? Down in the comments, Edgar Allan Poe says, "You're the arsehole. You're a huge, flaming, creepy arsehole." First, the way you reacted to your friends was rude and hostile. Then they were right. You didn't have to put your chairs with that view. Regularly watching anyone without their knowledge is creepy. But that you were obvious enough to do it during a party that it came up? It comes off as super obsessed. Yet another work in progress adds, OP is definitely obsessed with this woman, and it's terrifying. Just the way he talks about her and watching her gives me the ick. Reasonable Cricket 29 adds, I don't know if you've seen the Netflix show You, but he's giving off major Joe Goldberg vibes right now. Am I the arsehole for not going to my daughter's wedding? Trigger warning, this story mentions the death of a young child. The wedding was on March 25, which coincides with my other daughter's birthday. She was born on March 25, 2022. She was barely 3 months old when she passed away. My wife, not my eldest daughter's mother, has been wanting to celebrate our daughter's life on the date of her birth. I also didn't feel it was appropriate to leave my wife on this day, since she's still grieving, as am I. We haven't fully come to terms with things. When my eldest daughter was planning her wedding, I told her I'm doubtful I'd be there if she chose this date. I understand that March 22nd is significant to her relationship, and that's why she chose it. But it wasn't feasible for me. I wasn't even in a good place mentally on that day. It was a day of tears. Obviously, there is a lot of guilt about missing my eldest daughter's special day, but I honestly don't know if what I did was wrong. Her side of the family has been sending me a lot of scathing messages, particularly her mother. Am I the arsehole? Clueless says, I'm going to go against the grain here and say that you're the arsehole. I totally understand the need to grieve, but you have a deceased daughter and a living daughter. You need to support your living daughter. She needed you there. I'm sorry if that sounds cold, but this was such a big event, and I'm sure she dreamed of you being part of it. Edit. Okay, apparently this was a very divisive comment. I think everyone can agree this is an incredibly shitty situation. Maybe the right answer was everybody sucks here, but the question was directly related to OP going to the wedding or not. Could the daughter have moved the date? Yes. I mentioned in another comment that she has her part in this too. It comes down to what was in OP's control. Go to the wedding or don't go to the wedding. OP chose not to go. The question was, should I have gone? Which indicates that it wasn't I literally couldn't function and would not be able to handle it situation. Is it possible that the daughter did this to lash out at OP? Maybe. When kids lash out, there's something going on, and as a parent, you try and understand the underlying issue. If it were any other adult, you'd ignore it and move on. Not with your kid. Does OP have a justifiable reason to not go? Absolutely. I've seen similar situations where someone takes these convictions to the grave, usually with a large dose of regret towards the end. OP said that March 25th wasn't feasible. If he'd instead told his daughter that he wouldn't be able to handle it emotionally, would there have been a different response and some understanding? Who knows? Trinity MB responds, this is the first year anniversary. This isn't 30 years later that they're prioritising their lost child. Any therapist will speak to the impact of anniversaries, none more so than the first. OP, please feel no shame of your grief. You are not putting one child over the other, you're surviving. It's unfortunate that this was the same date, but if she needed you there, she could have moved it. I say not the arsehole. I just hope you're both understanding to each other's positions. Can't Stop Adulting Now says it's not the first year anniversary, it's her birthday. She died 3 months later according to OP. It's not the anniversary of the child's death. Goodfly7500 says, fine, not the day the baby died, but to know you should be celebrating that baby's first birthday but not having the baby anymore has got to be an emotionally heart-wrenching day. Mother Raven says, well, that makes it even harder that it's only been 9 months since the baby died. Struck6 says, the father specifically told her if she chose that date, he would unlikely be able to attend. She chose it anyway. Ex-Familiar says, without knowing the daughter's reasoning, I don't want to sit in judgment on her, but from the first look, it seems pretty callous. Very callous. I cannot imagine doing this to my father, or to anyone. Especially not when it's just the following year. A loss like that. He and his current wife must be still heavily burdened by grief. A terrible age to lose a child. Even a stillbirth, awful as it is, wouldn't be quite as hard as having a 3-month-old die. You are so bonded to them at that age. I feel awful for this guy. I wish his daughter did too. Struck6 responds, literally, it's just because it's the day that she met her fiancé. Like, why not pick the day they got engaged, or the first day they became official? He says that she had 2 other dates that she was choosing between. He told her about this one, and it was after the baby died, and she still chose it. I would definitely judge her for that. Maxwell Demona adds, I've been married once, and when I was doing my planning, I relied a lot on wedding planning books like Weddings for Dummies. They specifically mention that in the thought process for choosing your date, you might want to consider whether the date in question is going to be a difficult date for anyone that is really close to you, who is important for you to be there. It calls you out and tells you to remember that while this is your day, it is still made up of people with their own lives, and that it might be difficult for them to celebrate with you if you've picked the anniversary of a death. I didn't use a wedding planner, but I assume that since I read this piece of advice in multiple books, it is something that a professional planner would have mentioned. The fact that OP's daughter knew that this was a sensitive date, and was warned that OP might not be in the right space of mind to attend, and then chose to go ahead with it anyway, solidly makes them the arsehole in my opinion. At the very least, they have no grounds to be upset, let alone berate OP and his wife for not attending. In my own case, this was a piece of advice I legitimately hadn't considered, but once I read it, I cleared the date with my closest friends and family, especially my recently divorced sister, to make sure it wasn't like an accidental anniversary of some milestone in her relationship. Before I booked anything, if OP's daughter had just never considered this, then she might get a pass. But she knew, and she was warned of the perfectly reasonable boundary that a grieving OP placed. Not the arsehole in the slightest. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. So there's lots of disagreement on each side. Personally, I think OP is not the arsehole. He told his daughter about the trauma of that date before the plans were set, and how he'd be in tears that day even if he came. She chose that date anyway. If her dad being there was so important, she could have moved it. Who'd want their dad to spend their wedding in tears over their recently dead child anyway? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Am I the arsehole for manspreading on a plane? A few months ago, I, male 26, was alone on a long flight. 6 hours. I had a middle seat between a young woman in her 20s in the window seat and a woman in her 30s on the aisle. I'm tall and I'm never comfortable on planes. My knees always dig into the seat in front and it can be quite painful. I usually try and take a walk around the airport before flights to stretch my legs, but neglected to this time. It was a Spirit Airlines, so even less legroom than normal. About half an hour after takeoff, I found my left knee inching to the side for the sweet relief of open space, specifically the no man's land between seats, level with the shared armrest. But I wasn't paying attention to my knee the entire time. I'll concede it's possible that at some point I was occupying space that rightfully belonged to my window seat neighbour. All was well. For 2 hours. At this point, the woman in the window seat called over the flight attendant. She asked her something like, "Could you tell him to keep his effing leg in his own effing seat?" With horror, I understood she was talking about me. I instantly retracted my leg in deep shame. She added something about his enormous dick. My understanding was this was meant to be a snide reference to the idea that spreading your legs is about male genitalia comfort. But she wasn't speaking very clearly, and the flight attendant didn't seem to understand her. The flight attendant asked her some sort of clarifying question, but she didn't answer, and eventually the attendant went away. I had been shocked into silence, but when the flight attendant left, I frantically began to apologize. But she refused to speak to me. She acted as if she couldn't hear me. Instead, she began furiously texting on her phone. Yeah, texting during a flight. I thought it was weird too. Aisle seat woman said she had some extra space on her side that I could use, but then promptly went to sleep. Oh well. I tried again to apologize to window seat woman, but again she ignored me. I went from being embarrassed to being confused. I kept replaying it in my head, wondering why she didn't simply ask me to move my knee instead of calling over the attendant. I started sneaking peeks at her phone. My defense is that I was baffled by her behavior, and I wanted answers. I'll admit I was being judgmental too. Here's why. She spent the last 3 hours of the flight watching TikToks about shaming obese people and texting someone she called Pappy. I didn't see all of it, but a significant portion was definitely about me. She wrote, "Men really be too much sometimes," with a laughing emoji. She ignored me the rest of the flight, and I ignored her. I got a good but painful workout, whatever muscle it is that keeps your knees together. Down in the comments, Rolulu says, "You're the arsehole. This is a known and reoccurring issue. You know you'll feel better with more leg space. Stop pinching pennies and pay for an aisle seat or an exit seat. There are options." By wanting the woman to tell you that she is bothered by your invasion of her space, you make it her responsibility instead of just not doing it. Women can feel too vulnerable to confront a tall guy, you're on a mission, by themselves, especially when they're stuck at a window seat and cannot exit if the guy gets angry. She didn't call the attendant to tell you to move. She called her to have an authority figure to help her make a point. And then there's the snooping. Seriously, dude? You thought what? Ho, this woman has already found me intrusive before. Let's double down. Colours Captivating says, "I'm a small woman, and men on plane flights constantly shove their knees into my personal space, even when they have enough room to sit with their knees together. It's exhausting having to try and figure out if I should bother asking them to move, especially since I dislike conflict, and sometimes they get mad, and then I'm stuck sitting next to an angry person much larger than me for hours. Or else they fake an apology and then go back to doing it 10 minutes later. If you physically can't fit into your space, I'm not going to get mad. Yeah, maybe you should book a larger seat, but I don't know what your financial situation is or why you need to fly. But if you are able to fit, even if it's less comfortable, keep your goddamn body parts to yourself and don't put me in the position of having to ask for basic personal space." Filippo adds, "As a small woman, if they aren't taking up your space in general, They think it's appropriate to use you as furniture for their comfort. The amount of times a strange man has come up and rested his arm on my head. Glamour Cat NYC adds, I once had one arsehole rest his newspaper on my head on a crowded New York City subway train in the 1990s. Imagine his shock when I grabbed the newspaper and threw it off the train at the next stop. Sagaglass Pearl said, I had an older white male coworker try and pat me on the head as he called me cute, in a conference room in front of a few other people no less. I jumped back and I said, I'm not your dog. Unbelievable. GSD says, I'm also a fairly small woman, and I've started invading their space back because asking him to stop has never worked. If you think you can take up a third to a half of my designated space, then that means I can do the same to you. The shared armrest, it's mine now. You need to spread your legs all the way over to my space? Well now, so do I, and our legs will be interlocked the whole flight. You pile your used cups, napkins and wrappers onto my table that I was actively using without even asking if it was okay first? Your table is now the holder for my yarn ball. Don't like it? Suck it up, and only use the space you paid for. Limitless Megan says, I'm just baffled that he's decided to pretend that he's confused and has no way of knowing that if he spreads his feet into other people's spaces, that would be uncomfortable for them. Shocked Pikachu face. How could I know that taking up someone else's limited personal space would be uncomfortable for them? Why didn't she just ask me to move? I never would have done it if I knew. She didn't ask because you knew you were invading her space. You are a fully grown adult and you're able to know that if you take up the space on one side and she has a wall on the other side, there's no space for her. Men like you rely on women being too scared to say anything. Question. If you'd been sitting next to a 35 to 45-year-old man, would you have shoved your legs into his space like that? Now take some time and think about why that is, because it's going to answer all of your questions about why she did what she did. You didn't actually care about her comfort. You're only ashamed because she involved someone else. And please, at 26, you can't figure out why a woman travelling alone, trapped between you and a wall, didn't want to engage you about your choice to ignore her comfort and needs for your own? You need to spend some time in that sub, where women share the stories of all the things that men do to them when they reject them or confront them. I included these comments from other women as I think it's quite telling. This guy knows what he's doing, yet he's still trying to play the victim and try and make her out as a villain by claiming she's watching mean videos on her phone. I don't buy it. And his entitlement to invade her space again tells more about him than it does about her. Am I the arsehole for accidentally ruining my friend's chance? I, 16-year-old female, have a friend, 16-year-old male, and we've been good friends for a pretty long time. A few months ago, he asked me to help him win his crush's heart. Since I was a girl and I know what girls like, I agreed, extremely happy that my friend had found someone. I met his crush, and she was this really sweet, really nice girl. I told my friend that I think she's perfect for him. Then me and his crush started getting closer, hanging out, girl talk, etc. We made a group chat after 3 months of knowing each other, and we chatted. I jokingly flirted with him, which I always do. I partially thought if it would be a problem, or if she'd get jealous. I mean, if she gets jealous, that means she has some interest in him. It worked like some sort of magic. She was clearly jealous, and even privately asked me to stop flirting with him politely. I just gave the excuse, I just want to practice my flirting. It's not like I want him or something. And she replied with, stop it, stop flirting with him if you want to practice on me. I thought she liked him, and I signaled to my friend to confess. But before any of that happened, she called me to meet her, and I agreed. I called my friend too, asking if he was ready to hang out, and he was confused. I thought maybe she forgot to invite him, so I did it. As we got there, she was waiting and smiled at me, but then she was confused when she looked at my friend, but she didn't say anything. She told me that she needed to tell me something in private, and that was really important. I got worried, so I agreed immediately. She said it's a girl problem, so my friend couldn't come. I followed her, and then she stopped and confessed her feelings. For me. She liked me. I was so baffled that I just stared at her, thinking she was joking. But I said, I will think about it. She smiled and said at least she didn't get rejected. I'm not sure how to approach this with my friend. I know he's going to get hurt, and I hate that it's because of me. I feel really guilty, but I can't help but think it's slightly my fault. Am I the asshole? Crimson Knight says not the asshole. You didn't ruin his chances. You just did what he should have been doing, but was too scared to do. Talking to her and getting to know her. If she's bi or another sexuality that includes liking guys, he blew his own chance. If she's a lesbian, he never had one. If she just liked you more either way, that's her choice, as she's her own person. Am I the arsehole for sending my neighbour a ransom note? A couple of weeks ago, my next door neighbour left a note in my mailbox. Apparently, our trash carts were mixed up and he wanted his back, which is fine, but he wasn't exactly polite about it. The note read, "You have my trash cart. The city assigns everyone a specific trash cart for a reason. I expect it returned in good condition." For reference, my neighbour is older, probably in his 70s. We got along fine when we moved in. We saw him and his wife almost every day. We would say hi and chat, and they always got our son something for his birthday. Things went kinda south about 2 years ago. Our house was built in the early 90s and was starting to look its age. We did new stucco, windows and doors, so now we have what looks like a new contemporary house next to their home, which now looks even worse than it did by comparison. I think this bothered them. Before the remodel, they would always come out and say hi just about every time they saw us. After the remodel, the only time we spoke was when they happened to be coming or going at the same time. Maybe once a month, if that. So, back to the story. After getting his note, I made a ransom note. I cut letters and words out of my wife's magazines to write this. "I have your trash cart. If you want to see it alive again, you'll do exactly as I say. Meet me at the Arrow Bridge at midnight. No funny business. If I so much as smell a cop, you'll find your cart floating in the river. Anonymous." I thought it was funny. I thought he might even think it was funny. But the next day when I was leaving for the gym, he comes out and says, "You're a real asshole, you know." I was a little surprised, so I laughed, which I think made him madder. I just replied, "Sorry man, just making a joke. Let me get you a trash can." They're identical as best as I can tell, but apparently he's pretty attached to his. Hometown Away says, he would have ripped up that note angrily and put it in the trash, except you have his. I'm Not Your Problem Yet says, you trash talk the wrong person. Geek Girl says, I would have reminded you that I have your bin. Perhaps a prisoner swap is more in order. Am I the arsehole for telling my friend my honest opinion of what's going to happen with her relationship when she asked me for it? Backstory. My 33-year-old female friend, 30 female, doesn't have a lot of dating experience. She started dating this guy, 36-year-old male, about a year ago. Their whole relationship has been very tumultuous because when they started dating, he was already planning on moving across the country at some point. We live in the US. So he was quite standoffish and never really wanted to put in a lot of effort because he said from the beginning that he didn't want to do a long-distance relationship. Every time she talked to him about it, he would say all of the right things to keep her around and then immediately start pulling away again. In the fall, she ended up spiraling down because she was so confused about everything, and she already has a history of depression. All of her friends spent a lot of nights comforting her, drinking with her, and spending time with her. He was doing nothing to help the situation. Finally, in November, she broke up with him, which all of her friends were very happy about. Current situation. They started dating again about a month ago. The sale of his house is about to be finalised, and he's hoping to move by the beginning of next month. My friend says that he seems so much better now, and that they're talking about giving long distance a try, because he says he really wants to get to know her. All of her friends are sitting back, just waiting for this to end badly. None of us believe in giving advice unless asked, so we're just trying to be supportive. Well, I guess she was self-conscious or something, since no one has really given their opinions. But we're all hanging out, and she asked my opinion on their relationship, and it turned into long-term. I asked if she was sure, and she said yes. So I told her that I don't think he's changed in the 4 months since she dumped him, and that he's just using her as a time filler until he leaves. And that once he moves out there, they may work on the long distance for a time, but ultimately he'll start to build a life out there that doesn't include her. And then he'll probably get tired of maintaining a long distance relationship. But since he isn't adult enough to end it himself, he'll probably just do what he did before and start pulling away from her and becoming more and more distant. Then she'll start spiraling again into the "what's going on, I don't understand" canon again, and he'll push her until she finally dumps him. Then she'll probably never hear from him again. Everyone pretty much agreed with me, but she got really pissed off and said that none of us are true friends because true friends would be supportive. She stormed out and none of us have heard from her since. She's just been posting a lot of quotes about relationships and friendships on social media since, but won't respond to any texts. Did I handle this badly? Cat Attack says, not the arsehole. People shouldn't ask for honest opinions if they don't want to risk hearing something that they won't like. United Lost says, not the arsehole. Sometimes it's difficult to be a good friend. She actually probably needs to hear this, and especially if all of your friend group agreed. Just give her some space and time. You might go ahead and text her, and just let her know that you know it's hard to hear, and it wasn't your intention to upset her. Am I the arsehole for acting crazy and spouting conspiracy theories to get my sister to stop including me in her videos? My 19-year-old male, sister 21-year-old female, is a social media chef on TikTok and YouTube. I still live with my parents while going to college, while my sister lives with some friends about 10 minutes drive away. Even though she doesn't live here, she comes over 2 to 3 times a week to film for hours in my parents' kitchen. She will make lunch and dinner for my parents and me, but she insists on including us in her videos. I'm not comfortable with this for a variety of reasons, one of these being her fans have made some comments about me, which I find highly inappropriate and I don't like. I've asked my sister multiple times to please edit me out of her videos or not film me at all. She's told me multiple times that she would stop, but she still includes me in her videos and goes out of her way to still try and film me. My parents have also told her to stop, but they don't see any harm in what she's doing, so they've taken a passive role in this. A few months ago, a graphic designer friend of mine offered to make me some not safe for YouTube shirt designs for me to order from her, and I did. It gave me the idea to start acting a bit unhinged and inappropriate for the platform she's trying to make. None of this is inappropriate, mind you. I'm not trying to offend. Most of what I'm doing is conspiracy theory shitposting. My parents even find it entertaining, and my father has joined in as well, as he also is a bit tired of being filmed. So apparently earlier this week, I got my sister's account suspended. One of the t-shirts I got made has a picture of Ted Kazaki, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, with the word hero underneath it. When she was streaming Monday, she turned the camera on me and asked a question. I told her to stop, and she continued. While wearing the t-shirt, I said, "Pay attention, people. COVID was created to hide the truth of 9/11. My sister got mad and shooed me away, despite coming to me and trying to film me, and just continued being annoying in the kitchen. Last night, she called my parents up mad because her streaming account got suspended because of me. She also got multiple videos of me wearing that same shirt flagged, putting her YouTube account in jeopardy and preventing her from uploading it for 14 days. My parents just told her, "We told you so," but I got into an argument with her on the phone. I fully believe she's in the wrong for filming me, but I learned that this might completely destroy what she's been building for 2 years now. Despite the filming me issue, I'm actually now wondering if ruining her chance at this being her career makes me a giant arsehole. Am I the arsehole for refusing to rent to my pregnant friend? I, 32-year-old female, grew up in a low-income household, and I was determined from an early age to start investing and owning real estate. I graduated from pharmacy school with minimal debt and bought my first rental property. I currently own 4 rental properties with my fiancé. We both learned how to remodel and fix basic things to keep costs low. We used the rental property money to invest in stocks and are looking to buy a 5th property. My best friend, 32 female, of 15 years, has been married to a husband of 3 years, and they have 1 child and 1 on the way. Their landlord has decided to evict them. He has given them 60 days to find a new place. They have asked if they can come live in one of my rental properties. The problem is, they're not very clean people, and that's one of the main reasons for their eviction. My friend has 4 cats, and they pee everywhere, on their clothes, on the sofa, and on beds. They also tend to scratch the walls and cabinets. She says it's just because they're assholes. Their current home is on the brink of being on a Hoarders episode, and her husband spends all his free time playing video games and doesn't try and help with the cleaning or doing any of the women's chores. My friend has also asked if we could give her a discount on the rent, since they're about to have their 2nd baby. Both of them work, but my friend's job won't pay her the whole time she's on her maternity leave. I told her I could give her temporary reduction on the rent, but she wouldn't be allowed to have the cats. She said that they are like her children, and she could not get rid of them. She said that would be like asking her to get rid of one of her human children, and I'm an arsehole for even suggesting it. I told her that those were my stipulations. I've been fortunate that my tenants with pets are respectful and clean up after them. She's currently not talking to me and telling our other friends that it's my fault that she's about to be homeless. A couple of friends have said that I should make an exception, but I put so much time and money into these homes. Am I the arsehole for telling my friend that she can't move in with her cats? Down in the comments, Changeling makes a really good point. Not the arsehole. They've shown you your own property's future, and they have no plans to change. Also, once they get in, they will always be late with / not pay the rent, and expect you to put up with it for friendship's sake. Do you really want to go through the hell of evicting them? Better to piss them off now and just refuse them outright. Hysteric Rex makes a great suggestion. Just let her know that there are no vacancies at the moment. OP can't kick a tenant out for their friend without legal repercussions. Am I the arsehole for leaving a tampon wrapper on the counter in my bathroom? My twin brother, male 17, and I, female 17, both have our own bathrooms that are attached to each of our own bedrooms. When I was watching TV in the living room, he used my bathroom without asking or even telling me. When he came out, he was yelling at me for leaving a tampon wrapper on the counter, which I didn't even realize I did. He was telling me it's disgusting to leave it out like that, and it's not hard to throw away. I told him it was an accident and it's not disgusting, it's just a wrapper. Am I the asshole? 12 Days Sleep says it best. Not the arsehole. He's 17. He needs to grow up. Tampon wrappers and other period products are not cooties. Yeah, this guy's going to get a shock when he moves in with his first girlfriend because he probably won't have his own bathroom then. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.